that's when we'll beat this lot.
Jan Logie.
I'm pleased to take a call and express the Green Party's unequivocal opposition to this bill. My colleague Denise Roche has outlined many of our reasons earlier for opposing this bill, and tonight I'd just like to focus primarily on one area in relation to collective bargaining. Now, this bill attracted 13,677 submissions, and from my calculations, less than 1% supported this bill. But of course, this government only listens to 1%, so there's really no surprise that it's come back with very little amendment. This bill is another demonstration of who this government is serving, and it's certainly not the majority of New Zealanders. This bill is yet another example of the voices of the privileged few overriding the voices of the many. It is yet another demonstration of the inequality that this bill will exacerbate. One of the alleged aims of this bill, so ironically, is to, quote, ensure a balance of a fairness for employers and employees, unquote. Now, George Orwell would be proud of this example of double-speak because most New Zealanders know, and they know at a very deep personal level, how out of kilter our system actually is. Employers are currently holding too much power, and this bill gives them several more fairly hefty tools to add to that imbalance. We can already see the effect of the current imbalance, even without these changes, when we look at how the benefits of the very significant increases in productivity in this country over the last few decades have been channeled into profits and CEO pay packets, rather than being shared with the whole team who actually generated this increased productivity. We see how out of kilter things are in the struggle of the cleaners in this very parliament to get a living wage. We see the current imbalance by our rest home workers currently struggling to get by on just over the minimum wage while they hold people's lives in their hands every day doing critical work for our society and our economy. We see how out of balance it is already when we see that over 40% of New Zealanders are defined as living in vulnerable economic circumstances. We see how out of balance the system is already when we know that 2 out of 5 children in poverty in this country are living in working families. This is not a sign of workers having too much power. This is clearly a sign that employers are holding too much power and too much of the benefit of our economic work. In a new government, the Greens will be advocating for more tools for employees to help negotiate fair and safe work conditions and wages. This bill puts barriers in the way of negotiating fair contracts. It undermines the original intention of the Employment Relations Act, which is to promote collective bargaining. It takes us back to the bad old days of the Employment Contracts Act that, alongside benefit cuts, was largely responsible for the massive growth of poverty and excessive wealth in this country. And we don't support that. It's not serving us as a country. This bill removes the duty to conclude bargaining and removes the requirement for employers to bargain for multi-employer contracts. And both of these provisions will make it less likely that some employers will want to negotiate collectively. And it removes the requirement in the Act that collective employment agreements be offered to new employees. And that's effectively a return to individually based bargaining. It's not going to work for the people who need the most support, who are contributing the most to our economy.
Jami-Lee Ross.
I commend the bill to the House.
Debate has now concluded. I will put the questions, and the first question is that the amendments recommended by the Transport and Industrial Relations Committee by majority be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. Party vote. The clerk will conduct a party vote.
New Zealand National.
59 in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party.
Who said?
14 votes opposed.
New Zealand First.
7 votes opposed.
Maori Party.
2 opposed.
Mana.
1 vote opposed.
ACT New Zealand.
1 in favour.
United Future.
1 in favour.
Brendan Horan. Any other votes?
Ayes 61, noes 58. The motion is agreed to. The question now is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it.
Employment Relations Amendment Bill, second reading.
The bill is set down for committee stage next sitting day, and we call now on Government Order of the Day number 3.